Well, as you can see, this is the box containing the PL-990x. This is the release version of the PL-990, which replaces the old PL-880 receiver by Tecsun. And this 990X version is going to be sold by Anand Co. in Hong Kong, one of the best online retailers for shortwave radios. You can see the feature list here on the box, and most notably, I think the headline for the PL-990 is that the synchronous detection mode, which only on the PL-880 was only embedded in hidden menus or a secret menu list, that synchronous detection mode is now actually labeled as a feature along with single sideband reception right here on the front panel of this receiver. Alright, I'll have more on this coming up in just a few minutes. Well, as you see here on the left, we have Tecsun's PL-880 portable receiver, which was released some years ago. And here on the right, the PL-990, this is the X version. This is the version that's going to be sold by the Hong Kong distributor Anand Co. After initial reviews by some of us in the field. I'm going to do just a mini unboxing here. Again, this is the PL-990. As one assumes, it will be appearing in the box, new condition for sale. Open her up, and the first thing you see is the very nice Tecsun faux leather case that was provided along with the PL-880, the previous receiver. In the box, at least as this one comes, you have a Tecsun AN03L real antenna. You've got some earphones, actually quite nice ones with foam tips, and a USB charging cord, USB charging outlet to plug in, and two 18650 batteries, because the 990 does follow on the 880 and using that 18650 as a power source. I'm going to open the 990 here, and there's your first view of the radio in the 990X. You can see the sticker on the left over the speaker notes that synchronous reception is now a main feature, actually labeled on the front of the radio here on the single sideband switch, along with the 18650 power source. And another excellent feature which has been added to the radio, which is that this does enable you to play audio tracks from an inserted micro SD slot on the bottom of the receiver. Unfortunately, what this doesn't enable is recording of broadcasts and material from the radio onto the micro SD. I think Tecsun missed an opportunity there, although there may be some issues like copyright laws involved in having a radio like this able to actually record broadcasts and music and the like. Now, as you see here, included in this with this radio, just for testing purposes, it was kind of a copied version of what will be the original manual, the manual that one assumes will go out with the actual receiver when it's being fully marketed. As you can see, this is just copies of that manual. And this does not include, by the way, any listing of secret or hidden features that can be activated on the keypad of the radio. Just for a little reminder here of the beautiful kit that the old PL-880 came in, at least if you bought it in the kit version, included that great carrying case for the receiver, the real antenna, the recording device by Tecsun, which is the ICR 100, along with the Li-ion battery. I believe this is a patch cord, if I'm not mistaken, for the recording device, as well as this great case and spare tuning knobs for the radio itself, plus the plug-in for USB charging. Again, that was the kit for the PL-880. Alright, so here side by side are Tecsun's finest, at least up until recently Tecsun's finest smaller portable receivers, the PL-990, which was out a few years ago. And on the right, the latest newcomer, the PL-990x version. And again, this is the X version that presumably will be sold by at least one Hong Kong distributor. All right, we're going to do a quick test. We have the PL-880 on the left, the PL-990 on the right. A couple observations in terms of cosmetics. Both of these receivers appear to be using the same exact telescopic antenna with the same length of elements. There doesn't seem to be any difference in my view between those two. The key differences on the PL-880, PL-990. The 990 has moved the light switch from the side onto the top. It's also moved from the 880 where the treble bass adjustment was on the right side switch. That adjustment is, well, I'm sorry, the DX, the sensitivity switch, is moved from the left side onto the front of the PL-990. And the bass treble control remains on the right side of the receiver on the 990 as it was on the 880. All right, a quick test here on a station that's coming in well here in the afternoon. It's about 2 o'clock Eastern time in the United States. Both receivers are powered off. I've tuned both to 11820, which is the frequency for the Saudi Arabia broadcasting, which tends to be about 50 to 80 hertz or 50 hertz above 11820. So I'm going to tune in first and show you how that sounds on the PL-990 right here. And then we'll show you what it sounds like from the older PL-880. So I'm going to power on and volume up on 11820 Saudi Arabia. Now I'm going to switch selectivity positions here on the PL-990. The current position, again, the selectivity options compared to the old 880 version have now been moved from a switch under the LCD to a separate row here for AM bandwidth. So I'm going to switch and show you what it sounds like with those. So the options here are 6 kilohertz on AM bandwidth, then down to 5 kilohertz, then 3.5 and 2.3. Those are your options on selectivity on the PL-990. I'll go back up to, we'll use 5 kilohertz for purposes of this demonstration. And a little fine tuning. And we'll power down on the PL-990, and let's move the PL-880 into camera range here. And again, we're going to power up on 11820 Saudi Arabia. So again, 5 kilohertz is the selectivity option for Saudi Arabia, 11820. I want to make one observation right off the top, which is that it does appear that the PL-880 has punchier audio through this speaker. I haven't researched to find out what the speaker size difference is between the two radios, if any, but as you can hear, there's definitely a richer sound, deeper sound from the 11820 Saudi Arabia All right, so here are the selectivity options. Let's scroll through them on this. 5, there's 9, 5, 3.5, 2.3, 3.5 goes up, 5 again. All right, just another quick comparison, both receivers side by side. I'm going to power on first the PL-990x so you can hear the audio. Five kilohertz bandwidth. And power off there and go back to the PL-880. All right, next I'm going to do a comparison of the key feature that a lot of people look for in these multiband portables that wasn't really implemented, as well as well as it was on the old Sony 2010 2001D, is synchronous detection. So both receivers next to each other. Again, synchronous detection was not an actual on-labeled feature on the PL-880. It is now on the PL-990x. So what I'm going to do is first give you an example of the PL-880 using synchronous detection. I'll go find a station that will be effective on, and then I'll show you the same on the 990. All right, I've tuned to 11985, which I believe is an Algeria frequency, although the transmitter is in France. Algeria frequency, again, it's around 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to first demonstrate that frequency on the PL-880 to make a couple points. First will be the synchronous detection, and you'll see how the PL-880 handles synchronous mode, which is sharply criticized. There's an injection of a lot of distortion the way the sync was implemented in the 880. So here you go. Here's the PL-880 11985. Also, item of note, if you can tell, with the PL-880 had a lot of sensitivity to the touch. Whether that has to do with the amount of metal devoted to the speaker, I don't know, but I'll show you 11985, and when I touch the radio, you'll hear the signal come up quite a bit. So now I'm going to go into the hidden synchronous mode of the PL-880. You do that by holding down either lower, upper sideband buttons, and it goes into sync, and let's see what it does to the sound. Wrong button. Try it again. There's synchronous lower. There's synchronous lower and synchronous upper. Synchronous lower. And synchronous upper. So there again, you see one of the problems with the older PL-880 was the injection of this distortion when you go into synchronous mode, whether it's lower or upper sideband. Also, you can see there's some sensitivity that seems to be worse in synchronous mode when you touch either the antenna or the body of the radio. All right, back to AM. All right, we're going to shut that off now. All right, now here we're powering on the PL-990x, frequency 11985, Algeria, in the mid to late afternoon here Eastern Time. And you can hear, we'll compare the two radios, just regular AM reception. I'm going to go back to the PL-880 here and just do a quick comparison again, regular AM mode on that 11985. Interestingly, the 880 actually seems to be a little clearer in hearing that specific frequency 11985. All right, here's the PL-990 back, 11985. I'm going to turn the volume up and we're going to do a test of the synchronous reception on that station and see how well the radio holds lock on that frequency. Little sensitivity on the antenna to the touch, and sensitivity a little bit noted on the speaker as well. So my bandwidth control here has 6 kilohertz, 11985. You noted that the old PL-880 had as much as 9 kilohertz possible for AM reception. It looks like that's limited on the PL-990 to 6, but let's see. 6, 5, 3.5, 2.3, and that's it. So we're going to leave it at 6. Well, actually, we're going to go down to 5 for the synchronous test. And now we will go into upper sideband, regular upper sideband. Regular lower sideband. That's lower sideband, and now we're going into synchronous. So here you see the major headline difference between the PL-990X and the old PL-880. And that headline difference is that Tecsun does finally appear to have fixed, for the most part, the distortion when using synchronous mode. And that synchronous mode is a main feature now of the radio. I'll go to upper sideband and synchronous. Back to lower, back to upper, and then back to AM. Again, demonstrating some of the sensitivity of the radio, especially when touching the left side of the cabinet and the antenna. Again, demonstrating upper sideband, lower sideband normal. and Synchronous. Do a couple of other demonstrations here. Again, PL-990, afternoon, mid to late afternoon Eastern Time, power on to 11800 to show you, so you can hear the speaker. There's a station with what sounds like a bit of jamming or noise below it. 11800, let's go to single sideband. Upper sideband. Lower sideband. And into Synchronous. Synchronous upper, Synchronous lower, Synchronous upper. Back to AM.
وأولى أعراض تصلب الشرايين أعزائي هي النوبة القلبية والتي تحدث عندما
And let's switch in the older PL-880 and see how that does on that same frequency.
الشريان ويتم تشخيص وعلاج النوبة القلبية من خلال إجراء رسم وتخطيط للقلب للتأكد من أن المريض يعاني فعلا من نوبة قلبية.
So what you hear again is the quite discernible difference between the speaker on the older 880 and the newer 990. There's definitely less speaker space that as it may on the 990 than there is in the 880, and you can really hear the depth of that sound on the old PL-880. Of course, the sacrifice that Tecsun made was to move the antenna sensitivity gain and the internal-external antenna switch to the left top of the radio on the 990. So you do lose that much speaker space in comparison. So still with the 880, let's test 11800, that stronger signal, with what was the 880's poorly implemented synchronous tuning mode. وفي بعض الأحيان يولد الطفل وبه بعض التشوهات الميلادية قد تكون So there you saw it again, was that distortion, about 3 to 5 seconds worth of distortion until the chip in the PL-880 locks in and perhaps some fine tuning is necessary. So this is lower sideband synchronous mode going to upper sideband now. Distortion, clarity, back to lower. And therein lies the major criticism of the PL-880, a fantastic radio generally, especially with the speaker and its wonderful sound, but very poorly implemented synchronous detection. Again, let's just go back to the comparison of the PL-990. Same frequency. And we're going to go straight into synchronous mode here on the PL-990X. Observation that even the PL-990, at least on a frequency like this, still struggling, it appears, to lock on with synchronous detection, even with a signal that's that much stronger. Here's lower. All right, we're going to do a little tuning around generally. I'm going to start at 9330 kilohertz in the 31 meter band and tune up to give an example of what the PL-990X sounds like generally receiving stations here just on the telescopic antenna. Put the volume up.
Diese Sendung steht mit weiteren Episoden des BLC-Radios auf unserer Web.
In reality. We'll now take a moment to thank the scientists and researchers working on ways to replace animal testing and further efforts to care for both human and animal health.
He will return at the Feast of the Trumpets. Bet you wouldn't know that.
So there's 9455 and 9460, you can hear Turkey beginning to fade in. Let's try to separate those two stations using the bandwidth control on the 990X. There's 9455, the current bandwidth is 6 kilohertz.
South Carolina on the feast day this year.
And now down to 5 kilohertz.
This year for the Feast of
And there is 9460 Voice of Turkey. And go down to 3.5. And very easily, the 990X separates those stations. A little fine tune. The very stronger religious station. And Voice of Turkey. 2.3. And back to 6, resuming our tune.
Along with truly thought-provoking articles by Pastor Peters and others. We would like to send you that monthly newsletter, as there is no subscription fee. Just write to us at the Scriptures for America.
Here is Spain on Spain 9690.
Nadie quiere ganar el mundial, ¿no? O sea, no está Marc Márquez, no.
Now you see this antenna sensitivity as I touch the telescopic antenna. Quite a bit of signal boost touching that antenna and directly touching the speaker. Okay, once again, tuning down. got a 9635, which I believe is probably the Mali transmitter, China radio, but you can see what happens when I switch the bandwidth from 6 down to 5, 3.5, 2.3. Now I am jacked up completely, maxed out on the volume control here. There's no further space to go on volume.
Report Colorado 80535 USA and ask about our tape ministry.
I do listen.
Honeycomb, mesh, or a line. That's the right.
Okay, and now on the PL-880, we're going to be tuning the same band range from 9330 up into 31 meters. Now, I'm going to put the volume up here, but what I'm observing here is there's a little extra capacity on the volume control on the older PL-880 than there is on the new PL-990x. So I'm going to start here selectivity position at 5 kilohertz.
Hier is WBTQ met uw World Last Chance radioprogram voor ooit.
So here's a comparison, 9455. You could see on the 990X, very easily separated with its stable bandwidth between this station and Voice of Turkey 9460. Here's 9455. The selectivity is 5 kilohertz. Voice of Turkey. And you see that the older 880 not doing as good a job separating those two stations. Now, Radio Nacional Spain provides a good example of how much better the speaker is actually on the old PL-880. Listen to the richness of that sound. Now, I'm maxed out now. Now I'm maxed out, but you do have that extra little capacity on the old speaker of the PL-880. Cosmetic differences and aspects of both radios. Again, with the PL-990 here on the left, you have the gain control, the 3-position gain control right here on the top, along with the internal-external antenna switch. You also have automatic light switch here on the top, whereas on the PL-880 that switch was on the right side. The bass treble tone controls remain on the right side on both radios. And here on the PL-990 you can see something that they've done, at least initially with these 990X models, is they put little flat rubber stickers on the knobs, supposedly to increase traction. It really doesn't make much of a difference in my book, but it's a nice added touch. And also on the side jacks of the PL-990, get that in focus here, you can see there are little rubber stoppers, rubber covers on the antenna input, line out, and the headphone jack right next to the USB charging jack. In terms of USB, again, you know, on the 880 you had the antenna here, the gain control on the left side, headphones, and you had line out, which is an interesting, yeah, there's line out. So both radios retain that important feature, important for recording. Turning the 990X over, you have the battery compartment, the kickstand, and on the bottom of the 990 take the antenna. Bottom of the 990, you have the micro SD slot right here and the reset button. On the top of the radio is the snooze and display and lock button. So put the 880 aside here for a moment. So here we demonstrate one of the great features of the 990X, and thanks to Tecsun for putting this in finally in this series radio, which is the micro SD card slot, which enables you to play through the speaker any recording on the micro SD card. So I'm going to turn this on. And right at the top here, you can see
galaxies, all interwoven together by the thread of universal love.
You can see on the top all your play, fast forward, rewind controls, and pause. So first you have to press radio MP3 right here on the front. And you can hear the pre-recorded music playing from the micro SD card. That's quite a nice feature to have, although one would have wanted and hoped that Tecsun could enable an actual recording function right to micro SD. Let's try to fast forward. Now fast forward's pretty slow, and as you do all these functions with the micro SD, you can see the chip working here, the processor of the radio. There's pause, play, rewind, and fast forward. You stop that, and you have to go back to regular, let's say, shortwave. Press that, and you're back to shortwave.
For full channel listings, please visit suprememastertv.com/worldwide. Supreme Master Television is available on satellite all around the globe.
All right, here's an area I'm going to get into. Saved it kind of to the end, which is a little bit of a bone that I have to pick with these solid-state chip radios with the integrated circuit chips, which is the question of stability and zero beating, and how stable they can be, and what Tecsun has done to allow you to actually calibrate the radio. As people may recall with the old PL-990, one of the hidden features was the calibration of the radio, which turned out eventually to be quite easy. You go in a single sideband, you zero, first you zero the station, and then you press the top pause or snooze bar, and that zeroes the radio. What has not been clarified yet with the PL-990 is exactly how easily and how exactly you do the calibration procedure. What I was told before receiving this radio for review was that it's some combination of the play pause button and the 8 key. But in actually trying to carry that out, I had some trouble. The 8 key, by the way, has a small LED above it, which according to the manual is a visibility aid. Let's see what the printed manual here says, the PL-990, and according to this printed manual, that small LED above the numeral 8 is, anyway, it's supposedly a visibility aid. I don't know why one would need that kind of a visibility aid on this radio. But just as an example, let's go to a strong station, 9690 Spain, and see how far off the radio is in calibration. We'll go in a single sideband lower. Go in a single sideband upper.
A favor del Paris Saint-Germain, vamos a ver por qué. Finalmente será saque de portería.
So you can see that Spain is on this receiver is actually zero beating at 9689.88 lower sideband, and on upper it's a few tenths of a hertz off of that frequency. But if I try to follow the instructions that were given to me on how to recalibrate this radio, it's not at all clear. Well, for example, lower sideband 9689.88. If I press the play pause and press them simultaneously, nothing happens. So there's still a bit of confusion that we're waiting to be clarified from Tecsun about this calibration tool for the PL-990x. All right, at the end here, I'm going to do a test that I like to do with portable radios. The station in Toronto, 6070 CFRX, is a good indicator of the ability of these portable radios to bring in a signal in daylight hours. So I'm going to turn on each radio just below maximum volume on each, the 990X and the 880 on the right. In some ways, the 990X is seemingly slightly clearer than the 880, but you do hear more volume and depth from the 880. So here's that example, CFRX 6070 on the 990X. So you can actually almost barely hear that station on the 990X. Let's see what happens on the 880.
Especially history and sociology.
All right, now I'm gonna put the 990X exactly in the same position as the 880 because I mean it's a pretty amazing difference. I mean the older radio, the PL-880, has more clarity on that station, and it's coming out of the mud than the newer radio. Let's turn it up again. I'll check the selectivity on the 880 on that. 5 kilohertz bandwidth on the 880, and it was 5 kilohertz bandwidth on the 990X. Again, you can actually hear what the announcer is saying on the 880. I'm going to power that off. I'm going to put the newer radio exactly in that same position and turn up the volume. All right, again, 5 kilohertz bandwidth, both radios, and you can hear on the 990X what's being said, but when I shift this out, power that down, put the 880 right in that same position.
Sensitive break-in and home invasion. Now, Safety Screen is also the perfect solution for carefree ventilation and safety.
There you go. Okay, folks, this hasn't been an exactly scientific comparison, as you know, none of these videos are, but here's the PL-990X on the left the PL-880 on the right with its full kit, which is a very impressive offering from Tecsun. So let me summarize the best points, in my view, of the new PL-990 receiver. There has been a significant redesign of the cabinet, and they've placed certain controls right on the top at the price of some speaker acreage, and they have made synchronous detection a major official feature of the radio. They seem to have generally resolved the distortion issues with synchronous reception on the 990X, although I'm not completely convinced of that, to be honest with you, because I still heard some distortion there. The filtering has been changed in the 990X. You saw the 880 had these wider frequency options of 9 kilohertz when using AM. The 990X does go down to a very narrow bandwidth option, which is very useful in separating stations. A hands up, thumbs up for the addition of the ability to use a micro SD card and play files through the radio. Kind of thumbs down, although I understand it, that you're not able to actually record material from the radio right on to the micro SD card, as you were able to do in a way with older radios like the old Sony SW1000T, which had a cassette recorder and player built into the back of it. So that's an interesting aspect. I will note that the knobs appear to be the same on both radios. You have the addition, at least for now, of these rubber pads on the tuning knob, fine tuning and volume, and Tecsun has these rubber plugs on the jacks on the left side of the receiver. One area Tecsun is going to have to work on is the calibration procedure for this radio. It's very quirky, very unwieldy. They should come up with some kind of a firmware update that enables you to just press a button, for example, the top snooze button, as you were able to do in the 880, to recalibrate at intervals in the various bands, so you had that ability to zero beat exactly on stations and know what their frequency was. Perhaps, I don't know what the upgradability in terms of firmware is with the PL-990X, or how long it'll take them to make that kind of a change, but that is something they definitely need to work on. So my final kind of verdict on these two radios is, in a way, if you already have a PL-880 and you wanted to upgrade and get hold of a PL-990X, you could definitely do that. Of course, Tecsun has this larger radio, the H501, one of which I hope to receive in coming weeks for review. But I have to think that it has the same kind of issues with the IC chip that runs the radio, including calibration and possibly remaining a little distortion in the synchronous reception mode that the PL-990 does. But if you wanted to have both of these, it's kind of best of both worlds. You have the bigger, richer sounding speaker of the older PL-880, but you do have these issues that were resolved, including the sync for the most part on the PL-990X. It's unclear when these 990 market versions will be widely available, but we'll try to keep you updated on SWLing Post, and keep on listening.